Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. Also welcome to a brand new reading vlog, and in this reading vlog I'll be reading a book that I've been putting off for way too long, but I'm finally starting it, and that book is Yellowface by RF Kuang. And this is a book that has split the readers into, like, there's a wide sea in between the people who like it and people who don't like it, and I am really intrigued to see which side I will fall on. Anyway, so let me read out what this is about to you. I've spoken about it, I've said it in my own words n number of times over the past few months, but I want to read out the blurb this time. This is one hell of a story. It's just not hers to tell. Athena Liu is a literary darling, and June Hayward is literally nobody. When Athena dies in a freak accident, June steals her unpublished manuscript and publishes it as her own under the ambiguous name Juniper's Song. But as evidence threatens June's stolen success, she discovers exactly how far she will go to keep what she thinks she deserves. What happens next is entirely everyone else's fault. White lies, dark humor, deadly consequences. And this is something that I feel like I will enjoy a lot, but I also feel myself hardening towards June. Even before I started reading the book, it has been said that June is supposed to be that way. She's supposed to be unlikable, but I don't know, you'll never find out unless you read it, right? I'm going to start reading this book ASAP. That could be 2 days or that could be 20 days for all we know, as experience suggests. So yeah, let's dive right into this reading vlog, and let me take you on what feels like an epic journey of one of my most anticipated book releases of 2023, which is Yellowface by one of my most favorite authors of all time, RF Kuang. Hi there, today is the 24th of November and I have just finished reading the first chapter of Yellowface by RF Kuang, and I must say June is already pissing me off. And I can't imagine how the next 300 pages are going to go. I'm making tabs here, and the colors that I'm using are red and black. Black for the quotes and red for all the places that June pisses me off. The book starts off with June talking about Athena Liu in a way that it's creepy, to say the least, because she's talking about Athena's successes, but she's also saying that she can't be for real, that she's all putting up an act. She doesn't want Athena to win anymore. And at one point I was like, it's such a burden to have as Athena, to be so brilliant, to be like sort of the best, but also to have people move away from you because they don't like your success, because it makes them feel lesser than themselves. It's very lonely in that place, I must imagine, to be as someone as Athena, and to see June just harping on her successes, to say that Athena asked for my opinion about her new book and she was nervous as she asked what I thought. And then she goes on to say that it frightens me because I feel like she is so manipulative to do this even while she is drunk. But or could it be that she's all like, you know, putting up an act, etc, etc. Or is this really true? Is this really how it feels? Like, what is there to fear when someone is so nervous when they ask for your opinion about something they've done, especially in a situation like that? I don't think it should make you afraid. If it were me, it would be at the point where I would actually soften up towards that person. I would feel bad for them, that they were human enough to show their vulnerability. But June doesn't seem to think that way. And this all comes down to the same thing, isn't it? Because Athena is Chinese American, I think, and June is a white woman from Philadelphia. Like, I'm just the usual brown eyes, brown hair from Philly is what she calls herself. But Athena is like the strong, very attractive woman who has everybody eating out of the palm of her hand or something. Why should that bother you? You work harder, no? I'm like, is this racism or is this just plain insecurity and jealousy, or what is it exactly? What is she trying to do? Did she take that manuscript because she thought she was helping a friend out by saving that manuscript from other hands? Did she intend to steal it for herself, even if she didn't start out like that? But we know what she did, but still we are going to find out that there may be nuances, although I don't know if nuance will help in this situation. So that's where I'm at, and I will check back in when I have something else to say. Although I figured there's going to be a lot that I'm going to say about this book, the character June Hayward, and so much more. Today is the 15th of December and I have been reading Yellowface. Although I got through only 18 more pages, I'm on page 40 now and my blood has been boiling. So I have made a note of all the points that I want to talk about. This is going to be like a previous vlog that I had done in which I did this fast reaction kind of thing, and I feel like that is going to be perfect for this book, so I'm going to employ that. And yeah, let's get to the thoughts that I have. If I hadn't read the comments and reviews and RF Kuang herself saying that June is supposed to be an unlikable character, I probably wouldn't have progressed with this book and I would have disliked it too. They say that editing a bad draft is far easier than composing on a blank page, and that's true. This called me out in 10 million different ways. June steals Athena's manuscript and has the gall to ask, and I quote, "Does the way that it's credited matter as much as the fact that without me, the book might never see the light of day?" And it makes me think of the way that so many white people will scrape excuses off the floor to justify the crap that they do. And I don't know why I'm surprised, and I shouldn't be surprised because history is proof and witness to how they've colonized everything: land, people, art, all of it included. Usually when I'm pissed at a character, it's because they're doing something stupid, but this one reeks of arrogance and white privilege and plain thievery. And she's getting on every single one of my nerves, yeah? "I'm living Athena's life," she says. "I'm experiencing publishing the way it's supposed to work." Good for you, babe. Except that you're leaving out the part where you are a thief and a plagiarizer. Chapter 3. I know what you're thinking. Thief, plagiarizer, and perhaps because all bad things must be racially motivated, racist. It's not so awful as it sounds. Plagiarism is an easy way out, the way you cheat when you can't string words together on your own. But what I did was not easy. I did rewrite most of the book. It's not like I took a painting and passed it off as my own. Imagine if Michelangelo left huge chunks of the Sistine Chapel unfinished. Imagine if Raphael had to step in and do the rest. She is equating herself with Raphael. And she has the gall to say, "And so what if it was stolen? So what if I lifted it wholesale?" Woman. And then, in the very next page, "In its current state, it would always have been known as Athena's half-finished manuscript, as overhyped and disappointing as F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Last Tycoon. I gave it a chance to go out into the world without the judgment that multiple authorship always entails. And for all the work I put into it, all those hours of effort, why shouldn't it be my name on the title? Athena is, after all, thanked in the acknowledgements. My treasured friend, my greatest inspiration." Oh, you have a very high opinion of yourself, woman. Pure entitlement this is. With the full audacity, she says, "We owe nothing to the dead, especially when the dead are thieves and liars too. F it, I'll just say it. Taking Athena's manuscript felt like reparations. Payback for the things that Athena took from you. Seems like you were jealous that she was more successful than you ever were." Oh my god, I need a break. I need a break from this. I can't. I need at least 3 to 5 business days to recover, but 40 pages of this book had my BP like at this level. I had a headache after reading this. Hi there. Today is the 24th of December and I had to take a very long break from reading Yellowface because of 2 reasons. First, June is getting on every single one of my nerves, and 2, I was sick for like 7 or 10 days and I couldn't bear to go near a paperback book. So I've recovered enough now to dive back into this book, and as always I have a few thoughts. First of all, it's very funny how a barely visible white author suddenly has so many opinions on what isn't good craft now that she has appropriated someone's work without having had to do all the hard work. And here's what she says. Her fans praise such tactics. I mean, Athena's fans praise the tactics of adding in Chinese terms instead of English terms as brilliant and authentic. A diaspora writer's necessary intervention against the whiteness of English. But it's not good craft. It makes the prose frustrating and inaccessible. I'm convinced it is all in service of making Athena and her readers feel smarter than they are.
Take a deep breath, take a deep breath, take a deep breath, take a deep breath.
June's editor reverts saying there is no need for such discriminatory language, and then June says Athena's original text is almost embarrassingly biased. The French and British soldiers are cartoonishly racist. Both are blatantly ignoring the fact that their experience and the experience of someone like Athena are two completely different things. And they have no right to and are in no position to decide what level of racism is okay and what's not. And no racism is okay, by the way. June lies her ass off and then she says, it's not lying. I swear it was never as psychopathic as it sounds. It's all just stretching reality a bit, putting the right spin on the picture so that the lurking social media outrage mob doesn't get the wrong idea. Besides, the train has left the station. Coming clean at this point would tank the book, and I couldn't do that to Athena's legacy. Yeah, it's Athena's legacy that you care more about than your own success or whatever twisted definition of it you have. Sure. I even try to teach myself Mandarin, but no matter how hard I try, all the characters look as unrecognizable as chicken scratch. Woman, I swear to God, I'm in your face. Never have I felt such savage glee in the, anticipation of the downfall of a fictional character. For some reason, I keep thinking about how good her English is, she says, as if she doesn't know exactly why that thought has come to her mind. The way she's manipulating Athena's mother is so disgusting. I mean, the lengths she's going to do that, I mean, it's just like... The way she casually refers to herself as genius. The last front was a special happy accident, a melding of two modes of genius. Whatever work I produce from here on out will be my own. I don't need the temptation. Oh, wow. I mean, wow. Such sacrifice, I tell you, such sacrifice, much wow. So righteous you are. You are hell bent on doing the right thing. Wow. So June is attending a publicity meeting at her publishing house, Eden Press, and talk turns to cultural authenticity. And a publicist goes, and I quote, book bloggers and book Twitter accounts can be pretty picky about things these days. Damn right we're picky, man. Look at the kind of crap that y'all pull. Readers can trust the work. They can trust the words on the page. The blood and sweat that went into telling the story. This is June talking, and I'm like, what blood? What sweat? What are you talking about? I'm wondering at what point will June's non-existent conscience kick into play? Like, at what point will she realize that whatever she's doing is wrong on so many levels, or will she realize it at all? But either way, she deserves whatever's coming to her. And then she has the audacity to say this. I never lied. I never pretended to be Chinese or made up life experiences that I did not have. It's not fraud what we're doing. We're just suggesting the right credentials so that readers take me and my story seriously. So that nobody refuses to pick up my work because of some outdated preconceptions about who can write what. And if anyone makes assumptions or connects the dots the wrong way, doesn't that say far more about them than me? She details what a sensitivity reader does, and then she says this. I've heard horror stories of at least 2 writers who are forced to withdraw their books from publication because of a single subjective opinion. My brain can't compute sometimes. First of all, they are not horror stories. It's called comeuppance, and that is something that I hope is coming to you very soon. Second of all, that single subjective opinion is far more authentic than some fake thieving authors. And who do we know who fits that bill of a fake thieving author? Let's think. Oh yeah, you. Candice Lee, June's editor's assistant. She hates June with a passion. She keeps giving passive-aggressive taunts of sorts. And I have a feeling that she knows what June is up to. And June says Candice exists entirely to complain about microaggressions, and I will... Candice clearly had some strong feelings about this project, and it's affected her judgment. I had a serious conversation with her about respecting boundaries with authors, and not once did it occur to you to ask why June was pushing back this hard against a sensitivity reader. You're not doing a very good job then. It's easy to sell books when you're gorgeous, she says. At this point, I broke off halfway through a paragraph because one question was gnawing at me. Like, how did nobody, like absolutely nobody, become suspicious of this woman's claims that she had written a book on Chinese history and the timing of that book? Like, Athena died, just sometime later, June comes out with a book that's steeped in Chinese history. Dal mein kuch kala kaise nahi dikha kisi ko? Tell me that. She describes the feeling of not having a grand release, people not turning up to her signings and the rest, and this she does because she has experience from her first book, and I do feel bad for that, but that bad feeling that I have on her behalf is just a smidge when compared to the other feelings of anger that bubble up every time June Hayward I hear or I read. They love me, they can't look away from me, they're here for me, they're hanging on to my every word. The whole of their focus is consumed with me. Now replace the word me with Athena and you're good. Besides, they're not here to see you. They're here to see Athena. They just don't know it yet. Oh, this makes me so savagely happy. So June is at this author event at a very prestigious venue, and towards the end of that event, when there's a Q&A going on, so she looks in the front row and sees Athena's ghost. Or at least she thinks that she sees Athena's ghost. And she loses her verbal footing and she fumbles, and that is one of the most satisfying things I've ever read. There's actually one thing that I actually agree with her on, but maybe the whole morality of it can be questioned or discussed later. Big author gatherings, award ceremonies, conferences, conventions are like the first day of high school. But even worse, because the cool kids actually are that cool. And there's nothing more humiliating than being shut out of a conversation circle because your book didn't sell enough copies, didn't get enough marketing, or wasn't critically acclaimed enough for everyone else to treat you like a human being. See, this complaint of hers is not totally unfounded because it feels like the world prides itself on being built on the dirty foundational stones of classism, no matter what the area. She goes, if only I had the mental fortitude to not care so much about what people think of me. If only you had grown a conscience before pulling this whole copy-paste plagiarism routine. Oh, so a critic called Adele Sparks Sato drags June's book for all the right reasons, criticizing it with valid points. And June has the audacity to say, and I quote, whatever. Who is Adele to tell me off about authenticity? Isn't the name Sato Japanese? Isn't there a whole discourse about how being Chinese and Japanese are totally different experiences? She then goes into a group chat that has been created with two other authors of Eden Press, two other white women authors, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Eden's Angels, and she sends this link and she says, can this Adele bitch take a fucking chill pill? One of them replies with initials like ASS. No, the other one. Full sage advice. Critics build an audience by dragging others down. It's the only way they can legitimize themselves. It's a toxic culture. Don't get pulled in. We are better than that. Oh, my sweet summer child, you have no idea of how not better you are. Like the whole point of white women piling up on POC reviewers because they dissed your book, it will always be so disgusting to me. They call everyone snowflakes for reacting. I was just making a joke. I was just using this as a reference. I was just using this as inspiration. But then they are the OG salty snowflakes. Like, this reminds me of the whole Sarah Dessen drama on Twitter, in which some university graduate for a book club in the university or something, they said that they wouldn't prefer Sarah Dessen's book. And Sarah Dessen, she went and shared it to Twitter, and she did this whole thing where her entire group of author friends piled on that graduate and they forced her out of Twitter. And there was so much self-pity from Sarah Dessen involved. Like, it wasn't even that the student said that the book was bad. She just said that she wouldn't prefer Sarah Dessen's book. And she took it, the author took it as a personal affront, and she brought her whole army of friends and they chased that girl away. I'm still salty about it. I think this happened like 3 or 4 years ago and I'm still like, whatever I do, I'm not going to read a Sarah Dessen book. She has the most lame-ass white privilege responses to valid criticisms of that are pointing out the racism in the last front. She resorts to whataboutery and all this name calling and all. Very mature of you, June. Very. June recollects the time when Athena and she met at the Smithsonian Museum, and Athena was doing research or something. June silently judges Athena for doing that and rages at her, saying how she spent so much time doing that particular research instead of talking to her. Babe, you are a writer yourself. You of all people should understand what Athena was doing, the lengths that Athena was going to do research for her writing. She then goes on to ask, why is it okay when she does it but not when I do? Even if Athena never lived in China, she is Chinese American. It's about the freaking race. It's about cultural appropriation. What about that is so hard to understand? Huh? June goes to a Chinese American book club, and when she is reading a part of her book, she's thinking, they squint and tilt their heads to the side and I can't figure out if they are hard of hearing or if they can't understand English well. So I slow way down and talk very loudly just in case. And I went, have some shame, woman. And to round off this whole section, this particular chapter, it ends with her saying, I want what Stephen King has, what Neil Gaiman has. Why not a movie deal? Why not Hollywood stardom? Why not a multimedia empire? Why not the world? See, my question is, on what merit? At this point, I'm like, I can't read any further without busting a nerve. So I'm going to go take a break. But I peeked at the beginning of the next chapter and what I saw made me really excited. It was very satisfying. It's like, is it going to be the beginning of the end? But then again, I need a break from June. She's just pissing me off to no end. Hi there, today is the 25th of December and it's about 10 in the night, and I have been reading quite a bit of Yellowface, and oh my god, I have to rein myself in so much. Anyway, so I'm taking a break right now, so I wanted to run you through all the reactions that I've had so far in the 100 or so pages, I think, since I ended that last clip. Oh my god, the evidence is going public big time, and I hope that June is punished. I can't wait to see her punished, because if real life is anything to go by, it feels like she's only going to get a free pass and there's still going to be a lot of readership who are loyal to her. June says, I thought I was doing something good, something noble, to bring Athena's work into the world the way it deserved. But how could I ever have imagined this wouldn't all come back to bite me in the ass? First of all, don't act like you did all of this, that you brought that manuscript and all into the world out of the goodness of your heart. Nobody believes that, not even you. Or you've gotten so good at lying to yourself that you have convinced yourself. And second of all, karma is majestic. When her agent Brett asks her if the allegations are true of plagiarism, and she goes, no. God, of course not. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Like, what bald-faced lies you tell, June. Seriously, it's a talent. When this whole discourse on Twitter takes off, there are thousands of tweets against her. So one of these tweets says, the literal definition of Yellowface. And June goes, I don't think they know what literal means. Well, just like you don't know what original or what stolen means, so I guess you're even. So during all of this, someone does a text comparison of The Last Front and Athena's other works using NLP programming on Python, announces that there's a stunning frequency in overlap of keywords in both texts. But the words in question are things like said, fought, he, she, and they. By that standard, couldn't one argue that I plagiarized from Hemingway? I mean, well, she's not wrong, but the way she is trying to justify herself, it's just white entitlement and excuses at its worst. See, technically this is not the worst, at its most mediocre. What happened to critical reading skills? And what happened to being a decent human being? Like, we don't all get answers, man. But I know it won't matter. They've already decided on their narrative about me. But are they wrong? Yeah, think about that and talk about that a little, no? Okay, you are so delusional about your own righteousness. It just boggles my mind. And don't come at me with the argument that if it weren't for me, Athena's work would never have... She did not consent to you using that manuscript, and it was not your decision. You stole it. I think you should just stop being so salty at a dead friend / acquaintance at that. She was like that. This is like this whole book you're spending like dissing on Athena instead of focusing on your own craft. And look what you've gotten yourself into. You know, there's this Eden's Angels group that she is part of, that group chat. That group chat is getting out of hand. Like Karen's being Karen's kind of thing. They have the gall to personally attack those reviewers, those people, media people who, you know, who have valid criticisms of the work, of these authors' work, and whose anger and complaints are totally justified. And they're taking it so far to the point where when one person actually stands up to June, one of them goes, is she mentally ill? And then, since when did we start calling psychotic breakdowns visual art? LMAO. This girl needs help. And the other says, also her nose ring is ugly and she just wanted attention. It's disgusting to say the least. My question is, how much more is June going to delude herself into continuing to think that she is right? It's giving me the creeps and it's making me angry in equal measure, and I don't know how to handle this anger that's boiling up inside me. She goes to meet her sister and her husband, and her sister is another different type. It's like this whole family is one specimen after the other. And her sister Rory says, it's crazy to call Chelsea a racist. I mean, she's a Democrat. She voted for Obama. Like, as if those two are mutually exclusive, you know. If you are a Democrat, you can't be racist apparently. It's just... If June is a master of blind, white privilege, racist whataboutery, there's someone else who's dragging Athena through the mud. And the question that I have at this is, can you excuse racism and thievery from a white entitled person if the person that it's being done to is a politically questionable person? And if yes, to what extent can you do that? I don't think it's right. It's neither right that Athena was a brat, that she felt really entitled to being the only right person in the room or to being the most intellectual person in a room. Does that excuse June's actions? I don't think so. And that's the thing, even if all of that is true, whatever Athena did and all of that, where does June get off? Like on, you know, getting such gleeful pleasure out of Athena's takedown, because she and her actions have proven that her morals and her ledger is too much in the red by this point. And she has the audacity to say she had it coming for her, and I'm sure some blowback like this would have happened sooner or later, even if she hadn't choked to death on a pandan pancake. What the hell? I don't know how, but I'm hating June more and more as I turn the pages, because look at what she says. Like, this is one of the blandest things she said in the whole book, but because it's always easier to make the cishet white guy the punching bag. Imagine if this is bland. I don't know how June says this with a straight face, but she goes, I am a brilliant writer and a good friend. I wasn't dependent on her. I've never needed her to write. Really. Out of all this, that is what you took away. Something happened that thoroughly disappointed me, but at that point I was like 130 pages from the end, so I was like, okay, there is hope after all. Maybe not all is lost just yet. What she did when Athena died and how she took that manuscript, all this revelation and all the details which are revealed at this point, I feel like it was just convenient to insert it at this point, but then again it'll completely depend on how everything else pans out. So until then, I don't know if I'm buying it, but I think we'll just have to wait and watch. Oh, she's doing it again. What the hell? She's doing it again. Look at what she says. It's like the story was already in my heart, waiting to be told. And Athena's voice is the spell to draw it out. She was already in my heart, it seems. It is not your story. You absolutely detestable, thieving... Oh, I was defending Athena for so long. I mean, I knew she was a brat, but I didn't think she went to that level. But there's a flashback here and we see that Athena did something very disgusting, very absolutely disgusting to June when they were undergraduate students. I mean, it doesn't excuse what June did, but that doesn't make Athena an angel either. I mean, June has been saying that Athena is no angel, she was this, she was that and all that. It is still appropriation, only it was on a personal level. June goes, I made the last front. Athena's version was utterly unpublishable. That book exists because of me. Sure, you're not wrong. You're right to a certain extent. But you can't steal something, repackage it, put it out into the world, take full credit for it. It's wrong on so many levels and race is just one part of it. This next part was so ironic. It felt like I was like, this sounds familiar, but the perspectives are a little... I can't make up stories about these people without knowing a thing about them. I have to talk to the locals, make friends, understand where they're coming from, learn the quirky details that only Chinese Americans could know. So you're okay with this, are you? Huh? You wouldn't call this stealing? Because when Athena did, that was exactly what you called it. But now I see that we are channeling her after all. Well, we've been channeling her since we took that manuscript off her desk, but okay. And she's become so disgustingly vengeful that she is personally attacking the teenagers, the teenager students that she is supposed to be teaching. If they don't know something, you're supposed to be telling them because you are a seasoned writer, you are teaching them, you are their guide, their mentor and all of that. You know English, right? You know the meaning of mentor, right? Once you're writing for the market, it doesn't matter what stories are burning inside you. It matters what audiences want to see. And no one cares about the inner musings of a plain straight white girl from Philly. They want the new and exotic, the diverse. And if I want to stay afloat, that's what I have to give them. Even if I have to steal content from a POC author. I will justify what I did by telling stories about the author. I will tell them how they treated me and how they did all of this. And then I will justify the bigger wrong that I did. That's how I rule, babes. She has her fears about becoming irrelevant and somehow my reaction has morphed from absolute disgust to something that resembles understanding, at least a tiny bit of it. And she has become so desperate for success, to be in the spotlight, to be relevant, that in her desperation she has done so many wrong things I can't even begin to count. And from that point there's no turning back at all. To make no mistake, I still hate her, but I see her feeling. Okay, so I'm on page 262 right now and I have about 58 pages to go before I finish this book. But I need to take a break. I have to take a break before I break my own head over June's shenanigans. Hi there, today is the 26th of December and last night I finished reading Yellowface by RF Kuang. Finally finished reading it. And I was done with this at around 1:30 in the AM and I was fuming by the end of it. And it's not a good thing to be fuming just before you're scheduled to go to sleep, because those thoughts, like why did this happen? Why did the book end the way it did? And what exactly is RF Kuang trying to say? That all those questions made sure that I didn't sleep till I think 3:30 it was. But I do have some thoughts. So first we'll go through my vloggy thoughts before we move on to the summarizing. Picking up where we left off at the last section, for her next project, June proudly talks about how she's going to, queer bait. How she's going to enhance the quality of the female friendship and make it look like they are in a relationship. She goes, I'll play up the sapphic quality of it all too. Readers will love that. Queers love stories are all the rage now. Drop in a little hint of girl crushing and the TikTokers will go rabid. And And by this point, June's writing mojo has returned, and she has this utterly clueless, lame explanation for it. Because the concept that she's talking about involves her own life. I can't help but feel that there is some greater karmic reason why my writing flow has returned. This feels like redemption. No, like absolution. Nobody is absolving you, by the way. For if I can write this thing on my own, if I can turn this whole horrible mess into a beautiful story, then, well, it won't change what I've done, but it will assign artistic value to all of it. It will be a way of revealing the truth without saying it, and beyond anything else, it will entertain. It will stay in readers' thoughts forever, like a catchy tune or a beautiful woman's face. This story will become eternal. Athena will be a part of that. What more can we want as writers than such immortality? Don't ghosts just want to be remembered? Stop with your poetry. Stop with your poetry to excuse yourself from what you've done. She does not want to take accountability, and so she makes up these reasons, she makes up all of this nonsense, she pulls them out of her ass out of nowhere, and she uses them. She justifies her actions using them. And it is one of the most frustrating things ever. This book is like, I have never experienced such glowing anger that I still do even now, like almost 24 hours after having finished this damn book. I'm still simmering with anger. Every time I think Yellowface, I'm like, oh. And then my mind tells me that you finished reading that book. And I'm like, oh, I finished reading that book. Now I feel lighter. This is exhausting. June's attitude is exhausting. Her entitlement is exhausting. It's a burden. And I'm like, but I can't. At this point, there are so many false starts to June's comeuppance that I'm just looking at the pages like, because it's just like the boy who cried wolf or something. It's not coming. Listen, I get it, but the whole I'm too deep into it now to confess kind of thing is now grating on my nerves, because it's happening every couple of pages and that's too frequent. I want variety, not variation of the same thing. But then again, maybe mentioning this over and over and over again so many times is to show how she's reluctant to let go of this free pass and just to keep using her privilege or stolen treasure without employing her conscience. My suspicions that I had in the first quarter of the book were right, and I absolutely love this new development, although I'm a little scared of how it will all pan out. So like I mentioned before, I finally finished this book way past my bedtime, and it sat there, anger simmering in my chest at the nerve that June had till the very end. So I have a couple of points about this book that I want to summarize, about June, about Athena, and about the themes explored in the book, and I will place this here where you can see it. So first of all, June, the main character from whose perspective we are reading this whole book. We are reading her experiences with stealing a manuscript from a POC and passing it off as her own, and then claiming credit for it and claiming that she was the one who brought this to life. I mean, she might be right that her effort also went into the story, but when the original author's efforts are not acknowledged, when the original author did not give consent in the first place, nothing else matters. And here June chalks it up to survival tactics, but she will not acknowledge that she stole from POC, that she is shamelessly and blatantly indulging in cultural appropriation. She won't acknowledge the heft that she has in the publishing industry, the privilege that she has because of her being white. It's only been a slew of shows of support for her, and yet she will talk about reverse racism and how the world is being unfair to her. To channel a favorite Instagrammer of mine, oh, give over. But overall, this is a book that shows a glimpse into the workings of the publishing industry, what it takes to publish a book, or the whole process right from acquiring to publication and even post-publication. It's a long process. It does not happen immediately. It takes months and sometimes years for a book to go into production and to go out into the world for people to read it. The biggest question that this book asks is about cultural appropriation. Is it okay for a white person to take cultures from people of color and to use them in their books? Is it okay for POC to do the reverse? Is it okay for Asians to do it to black people? Is it okay for black people to use Asian culture in their books? See, my opinion is that as long as you get a near real picture of a community without making them look like a caricature or a stereotype, we are good. We are supposed to be sympathetic to a culture and understand it and learn more from it, not make fun of it and use it shamelessly for our own gains by turning them into caricatures and by making them into a shadow of themselves. I've spoken so much about June and railed against what she has done throughout this book, but Athena was no saint either. We see the things that she's done to June and to other people, her behavior, and she was no better off. And she had her own set of detractors. It is at this study of Athena that the whole saying that you shouldn't speak ill of the dead seems like such a farce, because you're suddenly elevating people many a times undeservedly. I mean, I won't go into the whole definition of a good person right now, but if they were a good person, well and good. But if they were a bad person who did bad things, then don't lie to yourself as well as to the world by turning them into saints. And it's the same for Athena. And yet it does not excuse June's actions. It does not give her the right to steal from Athena, same as Athena had no right to appropriate June's tragedy and use it for her own gains all those years ago. Both ways it's not right. June was asking us to, turn the narrative, flip the narrative, look at it from this perspective and all. No, see, there's also a huge social media discourse in here about how people are quick to jump to conclusions about cancel culture and about attacking people. I'm split on this one, because if a person deserves it, they should not be given time of day, but they should not be the recipients of death threats and crass language, whatever. Just stop interacting with them. Instead, people go and use abusive language, etc., etc. Why? Why are you expending your energy on someone you don't like or you don't agree with? Just keep scrolling. There are other people who would benefit from your positive energy, who you like, who you benefit from their positive energy. So expend your energy there, no? Why go into all this toxic bubble? So cancel culture as a sense that people becoming downright verbally abusive and sending people threats, that's wrong. And lastly, the morality of co-authorship. If two people have worked on a book, both of them should get credit for it. If Athena had been alive and if Athena and June had worked on it, I would have fought till the very end for June to get credit for the book. But what June does in the whole book? First of all, who told you that Athena would have put that rough draft as it is out into the world? She is an author, a successful one at that. She might be a brat, but she is an author. She knows how these things work. She would have worked on them probably. The next one is, if you talked about co-authorship, if you think that you put in as much effort as Athena, the point is, Athena was the original author of the work, of the book. The first draft, the foundation, because if a foundation isn't good, the final product will also not be good. It will crumble. The original author did not give you consent to take that book and work on it. So without consent, all your actions seem worse than they actually are. You stole. You use them for your own personal gains. And now you have the audacity to say, I am giving this book life. Without me, there is no book. Without Athena, there would have been no book. If the book weren't there, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be doing whatever you're doing. See, I love RF Kuang's writing, but this book hit so close to reality. And the fact that there might be some authors who are actually doing this or something similar to this, or that there are people who think like June, because I have seen such people. It creeps me out, it makes me angry, and it makes me feel helpless all in the same breath. Because fact is that they are so convinced that they are right that they will not listen to anybody else. They will not listen to another opinion. They are convinced that their opinion is right. Anybody else who disagrees with them, they are wrong. That they don't know anything. That they know best. And these are the people who will, instead of listening or acknowledging that there is another opinion that's different to theirs, they will attack back. and vengefully no less. And then again they will gaslight people into thinking that the people who were disagreeing with them were in the wrong from the very beginning. Yellowface is a draining book. It will exhaust you, especially because of all the high voltage emotions that it will make you feel, like disbelief, anger, disgust, the whole gamut. Yellowface is neither a story of comeuppance nor redemption. It is raw, rough and crass, and that is exactly what June is. An entitled white woman stealing from POC and looking at the world like it owes her something when she's the one to have done all the stealing. History is proof and mirror. I can neither say that I dislike that ending, nor can I say that I am completely on board with it, because the point of this book isn't that. It is to raise questions, ones that I've already mentioned before, and to put them in sharp contrast against one another to see the reactions of readers perhaps, and then to narrate how this bubble works. It asks all the relevant questions, and I love that RF Kuang's books do that. This book in particular, it hits way closer to reality than RF Kuang's other books, and because of that it hits harder and affects you more, because you know that this is possible. A dirigible with that kind of magic, moving with the help of magic and doing all of that, shamans and all of that, you know that it might not be truth, so you have that line between fiction and reality. But this one, everything is completely truly reality, so that's what affects you more. That's what makes it much more creepier. Okay, so it's time to wrap up this vlog after a very long break-filled monologue, but I can say one thing with utter certainty at the end of this all, that I hate June Hayward with a passion. Like, she is one of my most hated characters of all time, currently at the top of that list, and I don't think that is going to change anytime soon. But I know that Yellowface is a book that has got a lot of split reviews, a lot of split opinion about what people think was shown in here, but it is a book that raises all the relevant questions. So I feel like if you ever thought about all of this, if you ever wondered how the publishing industry works, read this book. It is close to reality, but don't take the events as standard for how the publishing industry works. It's one example, not the example. So that was me reading Yellowface by RF Kuang. Took me a long time and it like aged me a bit, but I really enjoyed it, even though the emotions that I was feeling were all very strong and on the redder side of the spectrum. But this is one book that I will definitely recommend. RF Kuang, amazing. So that was my vlog for Yellowface by RF Kuang. What did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Have you read Yellowface, or will you go ahead and read Yellowface after watching this vlog? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.